Please welcome Senator Michelle Hinchey. Senator Shelley Mayer. Assemblymember Carinas Reyes. Founder and Executive Director of Abortion Coalition for Telemedicine, Julie Kay. And please stand and welcome the 57th Governor of the great state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul.
Good morning. It's been over 2 long years since the women of this country lost their constitutionally protected right to an abortion. The day Roe v. Wade was overturned was surely a dark day in our nation's history. With an administration, the Trump administration in Washington, that has been antagonistic to women's rights with reproductive freedoms and health care providers, we're now witnessing in real time the consequences of that Trump Supreme Court and their decision, and now the collateral damage is so apparent. We used to take the right to an abortion for granted, but with the stroke of a pen, 6 individuals out of a population of more than 330 million decide to strip women of a right, a fundamental human right, the right to have access to an abortion, and in so doing, endangered the lives of millions of Americans. As I said, the damage now is real. You think back, who wasn't moved, deeply moved, by the tragic story of Kate Cox, a young mother in Texas who was denied a life-saving abortion and had to leave the state that she loved in order to get the care she needed. Without an abortion, she might never be able to bear children again. She wanted to be a mom, but things went wrong, and her state would not help her. There are countless heart-wrenching stories of women who are denied reproductive health care. But it goes even deeper. Our own doctors are vulnerable in the post-Roe v. Wade America. That's why we're gathered here today with so many champions of women's rights. I want to thank all of them, all of our leaders who've come from the legislature, our assembly members, our senators. I want to thank our speakers here today and our sponsor of the bill we're talking about, Senator Shelley Mayer, a tremendous champion. I want to thank her for her leadership on sponsoring this bill. Assemblymember Carinas Reyes, Assemblymember also the co-chair of the New York State Bipartisan Pro-Choice Legislative Caucus. I want to thank them. Also, Senator Liz Krueger, the other co-chair of the Bipartisan Pro-Choice Legislative Caucus. You'll also be hearing from Senator Michelle Hinchey, who has a personal connection to the doctor we'll be talking about today. And Julie Kay, thank you so much, the founder and executive director of the Abortion Coalition for Telemedicine. Again, all of our legislators are here today, and I thank you for moving so quickly. You know, lawmakers in other states moved quickly as well in the aftermath of Roe v. Wade, but what they did was they enacted more abortion restrictions. As soon as they were given that power, they couldn't wait to get back to their state legislatures and strip women of these rights that had been something all of our lives we had known, especially the younger women. They knew nothing else but to have this right. And in other states, they didn't just pass these laws, they encouraged their citizens to turn on each other, report patients seeking care, but also the medical providers who assisted them. In 2023 in Indiana, a doctor who provided an abortion to a 10-year-old, a child, was reprimanded, threatened, intimidated. And clinics have been set on fire and vandalized. Doctors have been stalked, some receiving death threats. And in deeply conservative states, they've weaponized the courts against providers in state and out. And now we know they've tried to strip New York doctors of their medical licenses, sue them, throw them in jail, and even charge them with murder. I knew that swift action was required. That's why 11 days before the Dobbs decision, because the memo had been leaked, before the Dobbs decision in June of 2022, I stepped up working with the leaders behind me to sign a suite of bills, including shield laws to protect doctors who treat out-of-state patients, clearly stating that we will not cooperate with other states' lawsuits or criminal actions against them. A year later, we went even further with the shield law protecting doctors who provide abortion services via telemedicine. As other states turn to the dark ages, New York remains committed to being a light, a beacon for reproductive freedom. Providing abortion care by telehealth or mail can be a life-saving intervention for people living in states where their most basic right to control their own bodies is denied. But Republicans' attacks on women's rights and reproductive health has not stopped. Indeed, now with this new administration, they're even more emboldened. So emboldened on Friday, a grand jury in Louisiana indicted a New York doctor for providing FDA-approved medication, abortion medication, through the mails. Now, this doctor simply responded to a cry for help. And in return, now faces a felony charge that subjects an individual to a prison term of up to 5 years and fines as high as $50,000. Think about that. 5 years in prison simply because you upheld your oath and delivered medical care. I immediately promised I would do everything I can to protect this doctor and others who provide such care to American women wherever they live. I must stand up and protect our doctors, and our doctors have this right to do this. I basically said there's no way in hell they'll ever respond to a request to extradite this individual and face criminal charges. Never, under any circumstances, will I sign an extradition agreement that sends our doctor into harm's way to be prosecuted as a criminal for simply following her oath. I will. Let's say it together. We will not now, not ever. Not now, not ever. And you know how they found this doctor? The doctor's name was on the prescription bottle. That's what they were looking for, to identify this individual. After today, that will no longer happen. I'm about to sign another bill into law, introduced by our sponsors, that'll further protect New York's brave providers. Going forward, when a doctor, a provider, prescribes an FDA-approved medications like mifepristone and misoprostol to terminate a pregnancy, they're going to simply have the name of the healthcare practice on the label rather than the name of the provider. This matters. This is one step we can protect our doctors. But I want to go even further and protect doctors even more. That's why I'm announcing we've secured an agreement with the legislature that I'm hoping they will pass immediately to ensure that pharmacies will adhere to these new labeling rules and make sure that they don't just include, that they just include the practice address instead of the name of the practice at the request of the provider, if the provider wants that. Trying to have another level of protection for these doctors who are out there on the front lines, doing what they know is right, what they were trained to do. And we must be there to support them. We must be their allies. We must be their army to protect them. We're also requiring that notice be given to the patient that alternative labeling will be used. Other states, they want to target, harass, scare, intimidate doctors and patients. Now that may be okay in a place like Louisiana, maybe Indiana, but those are not our values here in the state of New York. No. New Yorkers have always shown the way for other paths forward. Even when other states turn away from progress and embrace the dark past, we press on. You know why? Because we are so proud that the women's rights movement was founded here in our state. We legalized the right to an abortion 3 years before Roe v. Wade. Again, ahead of our time. We'll honor that legacy and that mantle of responsibility that is conferred on every one of us to do what we can to protect the women of our state and, where possible, protect those women in other states. We'll continue to be that beacon of hope. We'll always stand up because that's who we are. We fought this battle before. We shouldn't have to fight it again, but we will. Think about my mother's generation had to fight for this right in the first place. My generation took it for granted. And now it's not there for my daughter's generation. And we damn well better get it back for my granddaughter's generation. That's what we're committed to doing here today. So once again, the responsibility to act is upon us, and we are up for the task. The torch is once again in our hands, just like Lady Liberty. For 150 years, that statue has stood there facing the world, offering a respite for those who are oppressed, those who yearn for freedom. We will continue to be that place of freedom, all freedoms, including reproductive freedom, and we're a place where people can come to, where their own freedom of choice, their freedom to make decisions about their body have been denied, as well as the providers who are threatened in the process. Because, my friends, that is who we are as New Yorkers. I'm proud to stand here today. Thank you so much for bringing this to our attention, working together. Thanks to members of the legislature. And we will get this done. Let me bring up a co-sponsor of the bill, or sponsor of the bill in the Senate, another great reproductive rights champion, our Senator Shelley Mayer.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you so much, Governor Hochul, for gathering us here today with my colleagues to sign this legislation. When the Supreme Court overturned 50 years of precedent, as the governor said, set by Roe v. Wade, the justices made clear that they were returning the authority to regulate to the people and their elected representatives. In New York, we as the elected representatives have heard from the people loud and clear. They support abortion rights. They want us to do everything in our power to protect access, not just in New York, but for women across the country, and we have. I'm proud to stand here with my colleagues today, our friends in the advocacy community, and the governor, to continue the vital work of safeguarding access to abortion. Our legislation builds on the groundbreaking telehealth shield law the governor referred to, providing another layer of protection for our providers by allowing them to request that their practice name be included instead of their personal name and their personal address. Thanks to our shield law, doctors in New York State have been able to send thousands of abortion pills each month to women who might not otherwise be able to access safe abortion care. In fact, as of June 2024, an estimated 1 in 10 abortions nationwide were administered through pills. The risks to these providers are no longer abstract, as the governor said, and we know our law is about to be tested, but we're not backing down. States across the United States have embraced fringe and dangerous attacks on abortion at the cost to the women in their states and to the doctors in our state. This legislation represents a renewal of our collective commitment to women across the country and to the brave doctors who are providing them care. I want to give special thanks to our Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, for making sure this bill passed quickly, for her steadfast commitment, to all my colleagues in the legislature, to my incredible partner on this issue, Assemblywoman Carinas Reyes, and Governor Hochul for understanding the urgency and the priority that this issue takes for us as legislators, as New Yorkers, and frankly, as women. So thank you very much for your courage, your leadership, and thank you for signing this important piece of legislation.
Now we'll hear from the co-sponsor in the Assembly, Carinas Reyes.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor, for acting so quickly on this piece of legislation. I have to thank my colleague in the Senate, Senator Shelley Mayer. I have to thank the Speaker of the Assembly, Carl Hastie, for making this a priority for us at the beginning of session. The reality is that we are committed unequivocally to the rights of women in our state and to protecting the doctors who provide that right across the country. The reality is that this issue is not just about abortion. If a woman is experiencing a miscarriage, this is the treatment for it. So in other states, while women are suffering, oftentimes because of no fault of their own, there is no health care that can be offered to them in states that are prohibiting and criminalizing abortion. Abortion is health care, and it should be accessible to every pregnant person in our country. And while our country falters, on that reality, in New York, we say, we believe in science, we believe in facts, we trust our clinical providers, and we will protect them every step of the way. Thank you, Governor.
I'd like to introduce Senator Michelle Hinchy, who represents the area where the doctor is from.
Thank you, Governor Hochul. And first and foremost, thank you, Governor. Thank you to the sponsors, and thank you to the legislature for jumping into action so quickly in something that is happening now. The fears that many of us had over the last number of years have now, unfortunately, but unsurprisingly, become a reality. We assumed, we even knew that at some point we may be standing here together fighting for the rights of people in our state and of people across the country, and unfortunately we are standing here today doing just that. Reproductive care, as was said, is health care, and health care is a human right. The doctor in question today is not only my constituent, but is a personal family friend. There is no one who believes in access to care more than this doctor. There is no one who believes in their oath to do good, to help people in their time of need than this doctor. We are so lucky to have this doctor, not just in my district, but in our state, doing the hard work right now, standing up for the rights of people in other states that are losing their autonomy. This doctor and many others are stepping up. And so it is our responsibility to step up for her and those that are following in her wake to make sure that we are doing everything we can to provide everyone across this country with the health care that they deserve. This bill is so important in this moment, but so is the work that we are all doing together. And in the face of the absolute tragedy that we are seeing across the country, New York will stand strong and committed to do every single thing we can to protect both providers and patients in their time of need. Thank you, Governor. Thank you to our sponsors again, and thank you to the entire legislature for standing with us in this fight. Thank you.
Let's hear from Julie Kay, the Executive Director and founder of the Abortion Coalition for Telemedicine. Julie.
Thank you. I'm absolutely delighted to be here today. We've worked closely with the governor and others on New York Shield Law legislation, and it's so critical to our ongoing work to protect access to reproductive health care. Since Roe v. Wade was overturned, we've witnessed escalating attempts to intimidate and harass healthcare providers over abortion care. This harassment doesn't affect just providers, it impacts patients' ability to access essential health care. By allowing practice names rather than individual provider names on prescriptions for mifepristone and misoprostol, we're creating a vital layer of protection for the medical professionals who make reproductive health care possible. In 2023, Governor Hochul showed leadership by signing into law the New York Telemedicine Shield Law, which was introduced by Senator Shelley Mayer and Assemblywoman Karina Reyes, and we're delighted to continue to expand that protections along with our allies from the Center for Reproductive Rights. This bill will help strengthen and expand the success of Shield laws, which are essential in safeguarding and enabling abortion care, regardless of a patient's zip code or her ability to pay. They are fundamental to ensuring that everyone can access reproductive health care as a human right. New York is taking a stand, showing other states that we can and we must take concrete steps to protect both providers and patients. And this legislation is part of a broader commitment to ensure that New York maintains a safe harbor for reproductive health care. The right to make decisions about your own body isn't just a slogan. It's a fundamental right that requires active participation, active protection through practical and thoughtful legislation like this. Thank you for supporting this crucial effort to protect and expand essential reproductive health care.
Let's sign this into law.